Kevin Magnussen has become the first Formula One driver to get 12 penalty points, resulting in an inevitable racing ban for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. And to say he was angry after finding out is an understatement. Magnussen was absolutely fuming at the FIA, but also at his team as they stabbed him in the back after the race as well. Romain Grosjean, his former Haas teammate, received a race suspension in 2012 after a series of accidents. But this was before F1's new penalty points system was introduced. Under the current system, accumulating 12 penalty points over a year results in a racing suspension. Magnussen began his 2024 penalty points account with 3 points for causing a collision with Alex Albon's Williams in Jeddah. He earned 2 more for a collision with Yuki Tsunoda in Shanghai, and 3 more in the Miami sprint race after he exited the track without a valid cause many times while battling Lewis Hamilton. Magnussen and Haas, like in Jeddah, used delaying tactics to prevent opponents and aid teammate Hülkenberg collect points. Magnussen earned 2 more points at the Miami GP by knocking Logan Sargent out of the race, bringing his total to 10. Magnussen is the first driver to accumulate 12 points, with the last 2 points earned for provoking a collision with Pierre Gasly at yesterday's Italian Grand Prix, coupled with a 10-second time penalty. Despite the penalty, Magnussen beat Fernando Alonso by 0.1 seconds to finish 10th. But that point won't be enough to console him. The stewards stated the following about the penalty and race ban. The stewards reviewed video and in-car video evidence. On the approach to turn 4, car 20 attempted to overtake car 10 on the inside, whilst car 20 had its front axle past the mirror of car 10, the driving standards. Guidelines specify that an overtaking car has to be driven in a safe and controlled manner throughout the manoeuvre. The stewards determined that this was not the case for car 20, and hence the driver was wholly to blame for the collision, and hence the standard penalty and penalty points are allocated. Competitors are reminded that they have the right to appeal certain decisions of the stewards, in accordance with Article 15 of the FIA International Sporting Code and Chapter 4 of the FIA Judicial and Disciplinary Rules within the applicable time limits." End quote. Decisions of the stewards are taken independently of the FIA and are based solely on the relevant regulations, guidelines and evidence presented. So, hitting the 12-point mark automatically disqualifies him from the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, as verified by the FIA in the hours following the Italian race's conclusion. This should result in an Haas early debut for Ferrari youngster and 2025 Haas driver Ollie Bearman. That is, if Bearman skips his F2 weekend, like he did when he made his starring F1 debut for Ferrari in Jeddah. Pietro Fittipaldi is also a reserve for Haas, but he is committed to the IndyCar season finale with Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing in Nashville during the Baku weekend. Several Formula 2 drivers have earned race bans for accumulating 12 penalty points, but no driver has been banned under the rules in F1 until Magnussen, despite the fact that Gasly had previously come close. That resulted in a review of the system and the assurance that they would be utilised for driver issues rather than procedural mistakes. Kevin Magnussen has acknowledged to being completely perplexed by the FIA punishment that meant he will miss the Azerbaijan Grand Prix next time around. He received a 10-second time penalty for being deemed wholly to blame for a collision with Pierre Gasly at the Rogia chicane during Sunday's Italian Grand Prix, as well as 2 penalty points on his super licence, which will result in a racing suspension. The Haas driver finished in 10th place at Monza on Sunday, sliding behind Williams' Alex Albon when his penalty was enforced, with barely 2 tenths between the Dane and Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin. When the FIA announced their formal conclusion on his accident with Gasly after the race, he received a time penalty and 2 penalty points on his super licence. Given Magnussen's past infractions this year, he has now reached the 12-point level that triggers a race ban, making him the first driver to do so since the penalty points system was implemented. Before learning that a race suspension had been formally confirmed, the Haas driver voiced his astonishment at being punished for an act that he believed was of equal or worse significance. Frustrated about the penalty. "I don't understand it at all. Flat out just completely confused," was Magnussen's reaction on Sunday at Monza. Me and Gasly raced hard into turn 4, we had slight contact, we both missed the corner, came back on track again, no damage to either car, no consequence to the race of either of us, and I get a 10-second penalty. Then on lap 1, Daniel Ricciardo and Nico Hülkenberg. Ricciardo put Nico in the grass at 300 km/h, completely destroyed Nico's race, massive consequence and damage to Nico's car, and he gets a 5-second penalty. Where's the logic? I just don't get it. When notified by the media that he would be banned for Baku and asked if there was anything he could do about it, Magnussen said, "Come back to Singapore, I have 0 penalty points. I only know that I have the 2 points from you. I haven't heard it officially. I said all the time, I'm not going to hold back, it doesn't make sense. I scored a point today, so see you later." Gasly offered condolences to Magnussen. "I'm a bit surprised, because he tried. There was a bit of wheel to wheel, and in the end, I really didn't lose any time," he said. The Alpine driver also stated that he did not want Magnussen disqualified. "I hope somehow they can revert on that," said Gasly. "That would definitely be unfair." However, these condolences and excuses won't help Magnussen, but his team can by appealing the decision. But remember what I said at the beginning of the video about Haas backstabbing Magnussen. Well, that happened because out of nowhere, Haas has stated that it will not appeal Kevin Magnussen's racing suspension for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix after the Danish driver got the sentence. Strange, right? It seems like they just don't care. Magnussen was given 2 penalty points by stewards in Italy for colliding with Pierre Gasly at turn 4, but both drivers were able to continue without incident, and Magnussen finished 10th, his first points since Austria, despite a 10-second time penalty. Magnussen has been walking a disciplinary tightrope since Miami, racking up 5 penalty points to bring his total to 10, with 12 triggering an automatic one-race ban. He is the first driver in F1 history to be banned under the system, which was implemented prior to the 2014 season. Magnussen's super license will be suspended in Baku, but it will be reinstated with 0 points for the Singapore Grand Prix the following week. Following the announcement, Haas issued a statement. Haas's complete statement on Kevin Magnussen's penalties and race ban. "It was great to get 1 point out of this race, particularly Monza, this low downforce circuit. In previous years we haven't been competitive, so it's proved we're working really well as a team to bring a competitive low downforce package," said team boss Ayao Komatsu. Also, with Kevin fighting so hard after he was told he had a penalty, and then creating a 10-second gap to Fernando Alonso, that was amazing. He was close to Albon as well, so it was a good fight. On the flip side, we shouldn't have put Kevin in that position behind Gasly, so again our execution wasn't perfect and that's something we need to improve. Nico's race, that was ruined pretty early on. There was nothing we could do. On the positive side, both drivers said the car was decent, especially the stability so they could push. Post-race Kevin received 2 penalty points, which means a 1-race ban and won't be racing in Baku. So, they won't help Magnussen. But why, you might ask? Well, that's easy to answer. It all has to do with Behrman, the F2 junior that will join Haas next year. What better way to get him up to speed than to let him drive the car for a whole weekend, instead of just a FP1, right? Well, that's exactly what Haas thought as well. It might not be classy, it might not be nice towards Magnussen, and he might be angry. But for Haas, it's a blessing in disguise. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's fair? And can you understand Magnussen's frustration? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.